Hey guys, this is Joe with OrderFlow Labs. Today, I want to dive into just the overall view of what is OrderFlow. Discuss some of the tools, some of the understanding and ideas behind it, really kind of get an idea of the general concept of what OrderFlow is and how it can possibly be utilized. And so, order flow, what is it? Order flow trading involves visualizing the interactions between the buyers and sellers in order to identify control of the current auction. The most raw form of order flow activity is visualized with the time and sales. That's the tape. And I'm going to give you examples of that, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But each tool today, you're also going to see following videos where we dive into a little bit more detail with each of them. But as buy and sell volume enter the market, that relationship of how they interact can give an individual an edge or a map of who is controlling the auction and who's most interested in aggressively entering position. Why would we use it? Well, it's non-lagging. It's not a moving average. It's not anything that is delayed, but it comes straight across your screen in an immediate stance from a centralized order book with futures. Centralized order book means that there's no hidden orders out in there, but they are all displayed right in front of your face, and that relationship helps you really gauge an understanding of what's occurring in that current environment. So, what are some order flow tools? Well, this is a non-exhaustive list, but some common tools utilized are time and sales, depth of market or the DOM, the volume profile, delta. It can be delta by price, it could be cumulative delta, different forms of delta, and also footprint candles. So let's take a look here. The DOM and the time and sales are certainly the basis of order flow trading. On the DOM, or the depth of market, what you're actually going to see is a list of resting orders. And that data in the book is used to determine which transactions can be processed and gauge the transactions that are occurring as they occur. What we can see here is the resting sell side here in red and the resting buy side in the right. Over here on the left, we can actually further break up those order quantities and see, are there some orders that are larger and waiting, or are they conglomerates of smaller sizing? And that activity back and forth helps us gauge an understanding of low risk areas to engage with the market. And the time and sales is shows volume, price, direction, and the date, or the actual trade data for what has transacted. And so you can see here, you see a time, the price that the transaction occurred, and the volume itself. The coloring also tells you a bit of a story. Were they aggressive? Did they jump up and buy it at market? Did they dive down and sell it at market? Or were they waiting there and just filling their positioning? Now this comes through quickly, and these are all this is all activity that is essentially starting here in a resting order book. And so a way that we look at this is in this manner. On the left here, you can see the DOM sitting directly next to the tape. And so although it seems a little overwhelming if you're not used to looking at this, this tells a very clear story of who's actually sitting, what is occurring at a particular level of interest, and where this should be going or exhausting from. That's the DOM and time and sales. Here, what we can see is a volume profile. Volume acts as interest in the market, and we did a video in detail where we discussed the volume profile, certain nuances and different things on that. But you could see areas where there's more volume and less volume. Now the volume is displayed vertically against price rather than at the bottom. And what this tells us is at certain price levels where there is more or less interest. And this is particularly useful in intraday trading and on larger time frames. But we could see where interest dwindles and where it may be attracted back to if there's an area of more interest. Also, it tells us where interest is not placed. So those lower volume areas speak to us intraday as well. And so volume by price, or the volume profile, is another tool to gauge the inventory or the actual order execution that is occurring live and in the market scenario. Here in the middle, what we can see is instead of looking at the total volume, this is delta. Delta is the ask minus the bid. So it'll show us an overwhelming one-sided transaction So for instance, this -230 here tells us that with however many orders are transacted here, we have 230 more sell side than we do bid side. And so this here helps us get further information out of something like a volume profile and utilize on an intraday basis. A footprint candle can be placed on any particular time frame that you want, but it'll actually map the buy versus sell on the candle itself and show you a picture inside what is occurring. Rather than just looking at a candlestick, you can actually gauge the volume that's inside of it along with the delta and see where repeating auction activity occurs. This is particularly useful to gauge structural areas or zones where there may be absorption or initiative or trapped interactions within the market activity. So, like I said, this is not an exhaustive list, but these are some very common tools that are utilized to gauge order flow activity. It's very simple, very direct. Utilizing them requires the understanding of multiple nuances, but that's something that comes with time and visualization. And we will be doing a series of videos on each of these products to help you gauge market activity better. These are all things that can be found out of the box with certain platforms. I do believe Thinkorswim does not have Delta unless you have the bookmap feature with it, but these tools here are absolutely essential to order flow trading. Benefits and misconceptions. Well, as far as benefits goes, it is live data. It's occurring right now before anybody who would be using a multi-period moving average gets a certain change of data. This would be gauging this activity right now and on the market. It's very clear and concise. You can see who is actually partaking in the auction or who is not. And if somebody is finding more interest in a zone and which direction they are leaning towards pushing that auction activity. My favorite part about it helps me with tighter risk management. So if I know the positioning of other players that are in the market activity, then I can not only gauge my risk against them in a very close manner, but I know when I'm wrong. And so knowing when you're wrong is a majority of the battle with a lot of futures traders in general. We've all heard of people holding on to trades that were not going in their favor and subsequently causing much harm to their trading account. And not only that, but emotional harm. The inability to gain confidence along the way because of the lack of understanding where to actually engage creates a cloud over anybody's head. But tighter risk management certainly is a key factor of this too. It gives a clear and concise understanding of the auction. Now, what is order flow not? It's not a holy grail. It's also not easy to learn and risk-free. So knowing that you have the ability to gauge this type of information doesn't mean that you can plan on just hitting home runs every single time you press a button. It does take time to learn, take time to understand those interactions of the auction. If it were easy, then more people would be doing it. And it's not a holy grail. There are no holy grails in the market. There are always exceptions. And so what order flow trading does for me is it helps me stack the chips in my favor and place higher probability trades with tighter risk management and wider reward against my risk. So in summary, order flow trading involves visualizing those interactions between the buyers and sellers. We're talking about price, volume, and time, those three variables. They can be seen with the resting orders on the book, the executed orders through the time and sales, the overall inventory through your volume profile. In the volume profile, if we have a high volume area, is it heavily weighted to the buy or sell side? Your footprint chart, seeing who is actually at play within the candle. These factors, they create a great cognitive map and understanding for that live intraday auction, and is absolutely essential for understanding with any futures trader. So at OrderFlow Labs, we utilize the the relationships of all this information to create the tools that we utilize. But like I said, we're going to be creating further through a series of understanding just the basic concepts of each of these tools and their actual true benefits of utilization right out of the box. And I look forward to diving into some deeper concepts with you all. Thank you for joining us today.